Hey team, on today's episode of the podcast we have Jaclyn. Now she's an MD, an RD and a CRN?
CDN,
Oh,
MS, RD, CDN.
All of them. And she's just brought out an amazing book called Dressing on the Side. So we had an epic time talking about how to create a wicked lemon tahini dressing and all about this lovely, colourful book that you guys can get your hands on.
It goes nicely with lemons, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Make sure you tune in for this one, legends. What an exciting afternoon we have here at Charlie Street in the studio kitchen. I'm here with Jaclyn. Now, I've just learned about all these abbreviations, but you're a Master of Science of Nutrition. You studied that. You've also RD.
RD,
and
yes.
CDN.
Yes.
Now, we're going to get into your amazing book in a second. But can you kind of like just break that down for me? Because that's a lot of abbreviations to have behind the signature.
A lot of abbreviations.
Yeah.
You know, I kept that CDN, which you don't really need, but it just felt like a lot to go through in Albany to get that state certification.
Yeah, 100%.
So I kept it.
Okay, so ranking order of
Ranking
MS,
order.
RD, CDN, what's the best?
So RD is the most important, really.
Okay.
Which
is
it's
a registered
dietitian,
Yep.
yes. So that means that I went through a whole lot of school and training and science to get here now.
Okay.
It's just science that led me to you.
Wow, this is a moment. This is actually happening.
It's really happening.
Oh, wow, I'm honoured. Well, thank you, RD. We can thank all the pleasure of that. And so where did you actually go to school?
So I did my undergrad at Northwestern in Chicago.
Which is honestly something I hear all the time, even when I was in Australia. Like, everyone's like, I went to Northwestern.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, obviously you have your Purdue and all these other great ones too, but Northwestern, is it known for its,
It's not. So I studied, I was a double major in dance and history.
Yeah, dance and history.
Things that you can do a lot of careers with, right?
Right. So what do you mean by dance? Like, what did you study?
I studied modern dance, history of dance, dance theory, kinesiology, anatomy, but I did no science. I avoided all the science. I was afraid of it at the time, which is really silly in retrospect because I wound up having to do a post-bac when I wanted to go to grad school. So that was fun.
So you studied the practical aspect of and the history of it, but not the biological?
And also the biological.
Okay.
Well, yes, but really on a surface level, like more of the anatomy and movement study, but less.
I'm gonna surprise you here.
Okay. You have a dance degree.
I do have a dance degree, but I have been known to do performance studies. So I did a master's in exercise science.
Cool.
And so one of the things that I did was instead of doing learning about swimming, I learned about Latin dancing. So
I was going to make a joke that maybe you have castanets somewhere in this kitchen.
Look,
but
I've just been to Mexico.
Spanish. Right.
So ipso facto, I can move my hips to some salsa.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm not the best, but I'm learning. My girlfriend's amazing, which sucks. You go dancing and she hangs out with some dude, and I'm just gonna sit there and go, "Yay, baby girl! Yeah."
You're taking pictures.
Woo! I'm the crazy mom on the sideline doing the. Yeah, that's me, except I'm the boyfriend, the handbag. But let's talk more about you. We're definitely gonna talk about your amazing book, but I want to hear, we have a lot of people who obviously are interested in my brand of health and wellness. Yeah. And so people like yourself are super inspiring because you've done a path to get to somewhere where you're a voice of reason. Yeah, so let's talk about it. Let's back it up. Where were you born? Everything about you to get through to that dancing state of education.
Let's start on June 6th. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, wow. Here we go.
That is my birthday. I will say.
1989.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go with 89 just for now. But so I actually grew up a few blocks away from here. Okay. And I'm real New Yorker through and through.
So you got a really short temper?
I have a really short temper and I'm really impatient.
Nice, yeah. It's fair enough. You know what you want. I just say there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, like let's get it done. What are we waiting for? Let's just go do it.
Well, you've got 3 abbreviations after your name, so you just get it done.
So I just went to go get those done real quick.
Exactly.
But so I left here for, my family is all still here in the area, except for one sister who is in Chicago now. Interestingly, after the fact, really. But I wound up at NYU for my master's, which is really just a few blocks from here also. And I did the whole program that includes a dietetic internship, which is sort of like a residency for dietitians. That's the best way of putting it. But and I worked clinically in a hospital after that here at Mount Sinai.
Awesome.
Specializing in traumatic brain injury and stroke rehab. So it's really the polar opposite of what I have been doing these days in terms of talking about disease prevention. I was really in it with the what to do in treatment. Yeah.
And what do you think about that, looking at now with prevention and cure? Are you much more, about prevention?
Good question. So yes, and absolutely dressing on the side is all about prevention, but the thing that is really meaningful to me is that my whole experience in clinical and getting into the research on various disease states and weight loss and going in at a really micro level in terms of what the science says and doesn't say, and where we see associations and where we see links and where we see certain trends going. It really gives me the ultimate perspective in what I do now, and being able to kind of translate data into an actual applicable strategy for everyday life, because that can be really tough to do.
No, totally. I think data collection is super important. I think numbers don't lie. We'll all agree with that. But it's so funny to see over the years how even dietitian and holistic nutrition have really morphed into this almost one now, because people back in the day, dietitian, not to, actually, you know what, like I've been so frustrated about what I was taught as a kid at school, what the food pyramid was, and to this day, I wake up every day trying to educate people on what they should be having. And it's really interesting when you go over to like grandma's house or friends of grandma, and they think that having your bread and having more bread than having greens is actually, you see, look at the food pyramid. It's just like, for 50 something years, this Answer Keys. Like I've got
Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
Anyway, Keys.
Which actually, I do like the Mediterranean diet.
Love it.
But what he's just, anyway, we'll go into
the confusion is right.
I'll have a whole episode on that later.
Okay.
But let's go back to you're NYU, you've done all that, and then what's after that?
So after that, I was involved in a bunch of different things at Mount Sinai, working with patients, working in some of the employee wellness stuff there in the hospital. So there was a big initiative that I worked on there in terms of their weight loss and weight management program. Sure. And then I was also involved in a study about gut microbiome and MS, which was really incredible. And I wound up being hired at Good Housekeeping right when I was really getting into the meat of it. So I wound up having to leave the project, but it was a fascinating experience, and really taught me a lot about research and true teamwork. I mean, talk about working on an interdisciplinary team like that is insane. So
let's definitely talk about housekeeping, but before we get onto that, I have a lot of people who always talk about nutrition and what it takes to get there and what I should study. I'm sure you get this question all the time. If you look back on what you've done to where you are today, would you recommend doing the same path that you have done?
Oh gosh. I always recommend that. I have to say that if there is one thing that I would really strongly urge anyone looking to do to go into dietetics, to go into nutrition communication at all, is that I'm really gung-ho about the whole clinical experience thing. I really think that you don't have the perspective of how to actually apply this to people's real gritty everyday lives if you don't really work with people at their most vulnerable, and working with patients and families and being able to provide counseling, or to not be able to communicate with the patient and be making recommendations to kind of get them to a place where they can eat solid food again, because a lot of what I was doing was tube feed recommendations also. So there's a whole lot of experience that comes with both the teamwork on the side of medical care and the role of being a dietitian in a hospital setting is extremely unique, but also invaluable. Like, I rely on that experience and that time all the time now.
That's amazing. That's really cool to draw from that experience. That's really helped shape who you are today.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I don't think I would have thought about that. Like, I've actually been pretty skeptical about dietetics from 20 to 30 years ago, from what it was and the curriculum that you had to follow, and how it was to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, very much based on a lot of big time corporate companies, you know, having an influence on what the care and suggestions were. So to hear you, you know, sit here and say that this is the experience, the positive aspect I drew from this experience, I could only agree with.
Totally. Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much now that we talk about the influence of corporations or business on policy and nutrition policy. And I think that to some degree, it's a little bit more of, it's less about this bad people doing bad things kind of thing, and more about people being hyper focused in their one area of interest and studying. You can study a lot of things in one area and be an expert, but if you don't know how to apply that to everyday life, then you're stuck in your own zone and you wind up lobbying for things or pushing for things that may or may not be beneficial in the way that they translate. Not because the science is wrong or inaccurate, but just because the communication isn't there properly.
Unreal.
So,
and is all this, like I usually talk to our guests about their behavioural, you know, style when they were growing up and how much it impacted their current state of work. Now, if you look back to when you were growing up, were you always interested in this kind of thing? And if so, did you apply, you know, your method of determination from something that you learned from your parents or your sisters?
That's a good question, but absolutely not even a little bit, because I was always interested in nutrition, and as a dancer, I really felt like that was something that was so absent from the entire curriculum. Like there was no real way of really knowing how what goes in impacts your ability to move and be in the world, kind of thing. I mean, that was really lost from the whole academic experience. But I was such a picky eater as a kid, and I really had mostly, I would say my diet was really mostly white foods. I think, like, and this was pre-cauliflower. I mean, it just wasn't what it is now, which is really the understanding of how cooking and being involved in the food process really makes for an exciting experience that touches so many value systems and cultures around the world, and how it can be as big as that and as small as experimenting and being in the kitchen, and the communication and interpersonal relationships that you really develop from those types of interactions around food.
That's why I do what I do.
Yeah,
100%.
I love it.
It's so cool. Like the ability to create life and happiness and enjoyment and experiences like no other. Whether it be just yourself with someone, you know, special, family, or a complete stranger. I mean, no doubt, I'm sure that dressing on the side is going to really dictate a lot of that philosophy that you've really kind of talked about. But more importantly, it's all the way towards, you know, a very, very important thing that we hear, or used to hear a lot about as well, with having something on the side. So we're going to hear a lot about this book and a little bit more about you after we hear from one of our sponsors.
Cool.
Can I just make a little side note? This has just got the perfect...
This is a lovely little armrest.
Oh, so comfortable. So comfortable. Unreal.
You could get a cushion on top of that.
I really could.
You know, when you're not using it, like, why not have a little armrest?
I know, like, my lovely lady, she's definitely taller than this. But, she might get jealous if I start, you know...
Like, I just have a new daytime gal.
She's not, like, super small, but I like to call her petite, right?
Yeah,
she's fun.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Kind of like a Cuisinart.
They haven't paid for that yet. All right, Jackie, let's talk about Good Housekeeping. Now, that's a phenomenal publication. So when that opportunity came around and you had to, you know, make a decision, was it an easy one?
It was an easy one. It's funny because you hear a lot of people say things like, this is sort of a trope, but like, don't leave a job when you hate it. And I definitely did not hate my current existence at Mount Sinai at the time. I was working during the day at Sinai. I would counsel patients privately at night, about 3-4 days a week. I loved all of it, but so I was not ready to leave when this kind of found me, but that wound up being the best thing. I think I would have been, would have wore me down after some more time of it. So it was sort of the perfect opportunity to be able to leave feeling like, this is amazing. I love everything about this. Now let's go do it on a mass scale. But I do remember thinking that, like, if there was one thing I really wish existed, I wish I could be a dietitian at a magazine and really communicate in a way that is actually translatable to people, to real people, rather than the stuff I was reading. So really being frustrated with what I was reading was like the inspiration for even kind of putting this out into the universe. I mean, I hate to say that because it's a little cheesy, but still, it was an odd thing to think for about a year before this job even appeared that that's what I wanted to do. So it found me, I found it, we found each other, and
we had a moment.
We had a moment.
That's great. That's great.
It was beautiful.
Sounds like it's turned out fantastically well for you.
It's been a very crazy 5 years, I just realized.
Wow, 5-year relationship.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know.
I heard there was like a 3-week, a 3-month, and then a 3-year. So you passed those major milestones and you're on to an amazing, you've done it. Let's summarize that quickly though. So you were in a position where you actually were enjoying your job.
Yes.
But then another opportunity's come around.
Yes.
And it just so happened to be the opportunity that you were kind of always wanting to be in. And so some people like these situations. It's more often than not they're not liking what they're doing and look for something else. But you actually were enjoying it. Yeah. So that decision, was it, even though you were enjoying yourself and this job was like your ideal job, was it tough, or were you like straight away like, did you know? Did your gut know?
I just knew. Yeah. I did just know, but at the same time, I think it really taught me a big lesson about really cutting away the bullshit that gets in the way some of the time. Like, you think about certain things that you love about a particular job, a particular person, a particular experience, and then when you're really kind of forced to think about, what do I really love and what do I really want to do and what's my actual intention here? My intention is to help people. I mean, dietitians don't go into nutrition for the money. It's just not that kind of career.
No.
Yeah, it's just not.
Student loans. Yay.
Yay. Yeah. So with that in mind, like, if you really want to help people, how can you help people the best, the most efficiently, and the fastest is to do it on a larger scale. So the idea of being able to do what I was doing every day and speak to our millions of readers.
Which it is millions of readers.
Millions of readers.
It's kind of a good, like, 7 figures to drop, isn't it?
Good housekeeping. It's the right kind of 7-figure. Right. Exactly.
Just put it out there.
The right kind of 7 figures.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we just go with
That's
that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like the right kind of 7 figures.
Yeah.
Awesome. But I love hearing the jump, what you've talked about. Yeah. Did you think, when you were sizing up, did the equation or did your decision, was your decision at all based on what you think you were better at or had more of an effect on? Because a lot of the times that I've listened to people, or even personally, I knew what I really wanted to do. Yeah. And as much as that's the main driving factor, I also, on the subtle side, knew that I have the ability, and I know I can do this better by doing X, Y, and Z. I know if I create everyday content, I'm phenomenally good at being able to communicate with someone and help them so much. Right. And I can walk away happily knowing that. It's like what I was born to do.
Totally.
So for you, did you have that moment going, this is a great opportunity, but did you ever think, I'm also going to kill this job? Like, do you know what I mean?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's such a good question, because I definitely relate to that. I definitely feel like being able to communicate, but also being able to bring it to help people where they're at right now is something that is a real challenge in magazines and in content creation generally, right? Because you can use a word and mean one thing, but to somebody else watching you or listening to you or reading what you wrote, it could mean something totally different. And sometimes those words catch on, right? Like, so a good example of this is, like, I was seeing a lot at the time, this was now a while ago, seeing a lot of things like clean eating. And a lot of people don't know that there's no real definition for the term clean. There's no, this is, if what you mean is making food that nourishes you and your family or your friends or the people around you, and you have an experience and relationship with food that way. Food is so much more than nourishment, and it's not clean or dirty. I mean, the idea of that is so, it's a little bit like creates something of a caste system within food, and food should be the great equalizer, right? Like, we want food to be something that provides nourishment both physically, mentally, and spiritually. So sharing experiences with people is really something that I kind of wanted to bring it back to that, and bring it to, I totally get that when someone preaches to you about eating breakfast every day, you have no idea how to do that, because you only see that as, I have to sit down at a table with my family and eat breakfast. Meanwhile, the number one question I used to get back at the time was, how do I eat breakfast with one hand? I'm trying to get my kids to school. I'm trying to get out the door. I don't have time for breakfast, right? But so then we need to come up with solutions that make it easier for you to eat better, no matter where you are, without sacrificing taste, time, or cost.
You've just absolutely summarized food beautifully in a lovely circle, and every single you've just said is completely in line with what I'm always talking about. Totally. The fact that, you know, I've got a bit of Italian in me, and I refer to food in that spiritual, a beautiful, is serotonin boosting state that it should be, as opposed to looking at, you know, some ingredients and thinking it's a necessity. It's something we should enjoy and cherish, and just have so much fun with. And unfortunately, over the years, food's now looked at as a fuel source as opposed to food.
1,000%.
And so I'm really glad you talked about the different parameters of your social, psychological, spiritual, mental, because in my eyes, the idea to being healthy is your overall happiness. And if you have all those parameters in check, that's what you're talking about, which is exactly what dressing on the side has in Vigor, your easy concept of cooking. But you talk about something, a phase that went through, you know, and still is today. People ask for dressing on the side. Oh yeah. So you finished up. Oh, so you're at Good Housekeeping. Yeah. And you wanted to create a book. Yeah. How'd that go down? Like all of a sudden, like I've gone from all these things, Mount Sinai. Ooh, yay! Yeah. Good Housekeeping. Ooh, cook. Ooh, book.
Let me put it this way. If you are able to, I hope everyone is able to read the book, Dressing on the Side, but also the audiobook I narrated, which may or may not be a good thing, but I will say that I wrote this book exactly the way I would counsel if you were sitting one-on-one with me in an office and we were talking about what the biggest barriers are for you in terms of creating behavior change. So the questions, or rather the chapters, are less questions / chapters. They're more of the statements that people would make to me quite often in private practice, in counseling. I need a detox, or I don't even have time for self-care. What does that mean? Or
That's an interesting one, isn't it? You don't have time to look after yourself?
Right. Well, I think that self-care is one of those terms that's gotten so overblown that we don't know what it means. And really, you know, I define it in the book as it means boundaries that keep your personal health priorities in line.
I love that.
And so grocery shopping gives me anxiety. That's something I used to hear all the time. I can't have sugar. I'm on a sugar detox. Things like that. People not really feeling like they can own their choices because there's so much conflicting information out there. So that's really what the goal of the book is. The other thing that I was really excited about with the book is being able to speak up. Is the bright green color.
It's the beautiful green color.
I just wanted it to be like a cucumber on steroids.
Look, if you're watching this on YouTube, you get it. But if you are listening to this in your car right now, I'm just going to try and just think cucumber, green, bright, slightly neon. So if you walk into any of your local bookstores or see it on Amazon, which I'm sure you can pick it up on.
Yes, you can.
You will not miss it, which is brilliant marketing play. Even if you're not interested in this, you're going to look at it and go,
look at it.
It's bright. And it's definitely on trend with my values of color always wins.
Color always wins.
So, before I rudely interrupted, what were you saying is the most exciting aspect of it?
Oh, I was saying that the one chapter that I wound up actually having the most fun with is chapter 10, which is about travel.
Just
just go for it.
Travel is so important. Routines or no routines? Talk to me.
It's a combination of both. It's really, so the whole book speaks to using your schedule to inform your strategy, no matter where you are and what you're doing and what you're there to do. And the real, I love that. I love when we get a laugh right there.
I just opened up the chapter title. So the travel section,
Yeah.
also known as I'm on the road so much that I barely know which time zone I'm in, much less what to eat once I arrive. Wow, that's a great chapter title. Just put it out there. I mean, it's great because it's so relatable.
Right?
Everyone's just like, yeah, me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That little emoji me sign.
Right.
Hey,
Hi,
right here.
I'm here.
Yeah, guilty.
Is this TSA approved?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So this really gets into the what are you doing, where are you, and where are you when you're making decisions about what to eat and how to pack, how to prepare, what to keep in your hotel room, what to keep at an Airbnb, what to really have when you only have snacks available to you on the plane. Yeah.
And about the hashtag pro tips too, guys.
Oh yeah, pro tips.
Yeah, with the hashtag.
Oh yes. With a hashtag.
Brilliant. So we definitely talk about this even further because dressing on the side and other diet myths debunked 11 science-based ways to eat more, stress less, and feel great about your body is pretty much going to be my new read. I'm loving the reading this year. I'm doing a lot of reading.
So excited about that.
And I guarantee that my girlfriend will definitely steal it from my bedside table. So just because to look at it, because it's green.
And also, it's listen, if nothing else, it makes it for a nice coaster.
It really
adds
does.
some color.
I say that about my cookbooks too, because it's a paperweight. Just go buy it. It's a great paperweight. It's an expensive paperweight, but it's a really good paperweight.
But that's okay. It's high quality paperweight.
Yeah, exactly. It's
delicious paperweight.
Oh my god. Okay, so let's talk about that step though. A lot of people want to create books.
Yes.
And did you get approached?
I was approached. I was approached by my current wonderful agents,
Nice.
but they actually were really interested in the first and last traditional diet that I ever did for Good Housekeeping, and it kind of had a catchy name. But it was called the super carb diet. But it's essentially, I tried to do in that kind of meal plan what I wound up doing in this book. But at the time, it was, we have only so many pages in a magazine, and we have only so much time to really be able to explain things fully. But it was taking one of the approaches of a strategy that I used to use with clients that was kind of like, what's a really easy way to think about things if most of my meals are from a takeout menu, really, which is another chapter in the book, chapter 8.
You got like the Bible of daily,
right? It's like where
hacks.
you are when you're eating. And we don't often think about how the structure and design of where we are and where we spend our time in the course of a day actually matters for the sake of our eating habits and how that affects what we do in a given day. So, we talk so much, I hear so much about things like keto and fasting, and these are things that, maybe certain things can work for you if you lived in a test tube or if you were a mouse, but are they going to work for you when you have either, 1,000,001 things to do on your to-do list and you're stuck late at the office and all you want to do is raid the vending machine? That's what I mean by kind of meeting people where they're at. Sure. Like, we have to speak to the situations that got you there in the first place and then do some damage control and plan ahead for next time.
Sure. When are you like me when you help with meal plans, in the sense that I take people individually and hear what they existingly do, and then take slow transitions with their existing setup, because every single person has their own distractions, responsibilities, and it's like, if you're telling them to eat breakfast, they don't eat breakfast.
Right.
It's like, is that it's like maybe their time poor, they don't like it. So what's your philosophy on that kind of routine?
Absolutely. So I always start any counseling session with a 24-hour recall, which is like, you start from yesterday morning, everything that you ate for the last 24 hours, every single condiment, any kind of dressing, whatever's in there. That is really the best place to start. The more information, the better. But I also ask questions about what you were doing when you were there. Are you at the office? Are you driving your kids to school? Are you sitting down at Charlie Street and just having the best day?
Yes.
What? Yes.
100%.
I mean, in my dream, yes, that would be every day for me too. But it's really important to think about where you are, what you're doing, and what your intention is. Sure. What's the purpose of you being there? Because we often think about food as like its own little category, but you don't really think about the fact that, you're okay to go hard on a brownie if you want at 4 p.m., but what if you have dinner in a couple hours where you're going to need to be on your game? Are you going to feel exhausted by what you had at your last meal? So it's kind of resetting up the structure and the design of your day and your meals and your snacks and how those fuel you forward. So I would always start with the 24-hour recall. And I also always feel like people can make solidly one change at a time. The maximum change that people can make at a time is really 3, and they have to be really small. That's my experience. There's a lot of data out there that says that, people can only do one thing at a time, that kind of thing, only do one thing well.
That was a guy.
Yeah, it might be a guy.
Okay. But
I think there's some research. I think he might be a guy with research.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
But there is research that's like, you can do one thing really well at a time. And that's probably true, but it really depends on how big that seems to you. But I have not had good experiences with trying to start out of the gate with people, no matter how motivated they are, to try to make more than 3 changes at a time. So I like to start with like 3 kind of key things.
3 key things.
Yes, and they are in chapter 1.
Oh,
if you would like me to go there, dressing on the side and other diet myths debunked.
So on that, I love that segue. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors now, but I want to hear how the name came about.
Oh yeah.
And a little bit more about you and your daily routines.
Sure.
Dressing on the side. Now, Jackie, how did this epic title come about?
So I was on a deadline for coming up with the title.
How long is a deadline? Because you get what's a deadline?
A deadline? I mean, listen, if there is a way to get around a deadline, I will find it. I will be like, what is the drop dead hour that you need this?
Okay.
Like, I mean, because, you know what this is like. Like when you're managing a number of things and you've got a number of balls in the air at the same time, you're like, no, seriously, like what is the absolute last second that is 4 a.m. on a Wednesday okay with you? What about 4:51? It's like when you can push to the last second. I was at the last second.
But were you given plenty of time?
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's 6 months away and you're like, that's future Jackie.
I thought it would come to me. Okay, so like I had like a lot of titles that I wanted to call it. I really wanted to call it Your Diet is Bullshit, but I'm honestly so glad that I didn't, because you don't really want to shame people for trying things, because that's really not what I'm about, and it's not right.
Great marketing title.
So I entered into a little search engine you might have heard of called Google. I entered in most annoying things people say on a diet. And this is from a listicle that came up that is, I want to say that I even remember where this was from, but it is, but I don't. I actually think that it was like one of those sites that's just kind of aggregating various articles.
I'm going to go with that. I'm going to see if there's an actual list of like the 100 worst things to say on a diet.
Exactly.
Oh, what are some of the other ones?
I'll have the burger without the bun. That's one of them.
That's great.
I can't have lunch this week. I'm fasting.
Oh wow.
Or that one didn't come. that one wasn't really in the running, but the most common one, they all really have to do with sugar or fat. Like, that's so fattening. Like when you think about that, what does that even mean that one food can be fattening is like such a dated thought, but also something that people use commonly.
Love your work, Ansel Keys, once again.
Right.
If I could do one
Thanks,
thing.
Ansel.
Yeah,
right.
You're a legend. Little fist bump.
Right. So this was my personal favorite and one that I hadn't thought of yet, and I finally just sent it off. And when I say I was at the deadline, I mean they were like, we need this by 3 p.m. because we have to put it into a document that is, like something that my publisher was circulating, and I that was a $2.59 send. I was like, here we go.
I wonder what happened if you didn't do it at 2%. Like, what was the
I was gonna get the fallback title, which I can't remember, but I remember being bummed about it. So
yeah.
I was like, I've got to come up with something.
Maybe you have to promote it. You go on like
right,
a show and you're like,
this is my sad
this is
title.
my amazing book called
Food.
You've got to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
You've got to be passionate about it. Okay, so I'm going to start like on this show.
Okay.
On the Epic Table podcast, I get every guest in and actually cook them a dish because we can do that here in the studio kitchen as we chat. And so, considering it's called dressing on the side, I'm going to create one of the most popular dressings we have here at Charlie Street, a personal favourite. I'm going to put them in with some lovely roasted broccoli. So we're going to do a lemon tahini dressing.
Love tahini. I love lemons.
It's Brussels sprouts. What did I say? Broccoli. My bad.
Oh, cruciferous.
We're going to serve that with some lovely roasted Brussels sprouts, which I've come to even love so much more being here in America. But the dressing itself is super simple. Lemon tahini, you can't lose. And it's pretty much combining the two ingredients we just talked about. Lemon tahini, a little bit of olive oil and some water and a pinch of salt.
This sounds like heaven.
Right, so guys, if you want to follow this one along, we're going to have the whole recipe down here in the comment section, or you can watch here on YouTube. And as I do this, let's hear more about dressing on the side and the stages of creating this book. So how long was the process?
So the process was about, again, being the person that likes to leave it to the last second. Dressing on the side of the bowl. That's my follow-up title.
That's great. So I've just done a typical DC bit of movement there where the dressing of the tahini is rolled down the side and you know I'm going to leave that off because it's just the best thing ever. Actually, no, I'm going to be professional. So continue on, please.
So this was about a year. It was start to finish of when I started writing to when I submitted the manuscript, a couple months. That was a rush. I would say that was a rush.
Wow.
But I had these buckets of there are 11 science-based ways. There are 11 science or non-science myths that we kind of go through in tangible, actionable, this is what you're doing right now that might not be working for you, and here's a slightly better solution or a massively better solution, kind of depending on where you're at. So the goal was always meet people where they're at.
Okay.
Life gives you lemons, make dressing.
Tell me that's in there 1,000 times. Yeah. Lemon drop, anybody? That is epic. That is
right?
Epic.
I mean,
and so how long ago did you, as I squeezed lemon juice into this blender, how long ago did you actually finish the book?
I finished, there were so many points of finishing that it's sort of hard to say, but I remember submitting the copy edited manuscript, my edits to that, somewhere around August, which I hesitate to say because this book came out in January and probably I was extremely late on that deadline.
Yeah, nice. Well played you.
So, I mean, there's just sometimes there's a lot of things going on. You gotta just take the priorities as they come.
Christmas, and there's Christmas, and there's Christmas. So as I do this, guys, just to recap, we put some tahini in there, some lemon juice, get a splash of our Epic Table olive oil as well.
This is looking
beautiful,
glorious.
Yeah, it's epic. And
it's epic. It's epic.
It's epic, of course it is. And then just going to finish off with a bit of water. So really simply done. Essentially, the consistency is up to you guys. So you can just base that on, if you want to be a thick dressing, obviously less water. If you want to be really thin, more water. Simple as that. So we're just going to quickly shh for a second as we blend. We're going to shh.
It's the satisfying sound, isn't it?
It is so satisfying. And it's so satisfying looking at nice, and I do like it thick as a dressing.
Same.
But I'm going to thin out slightly.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the sound of magic happening in a blender.
In a blender. It's funny though, because everyone grew up loving cars. I love my power appliances, right? Everyone's like, check out my V8,
exactly.
Cami. And I'm just there going, dude, check out my blender.
This is why you've got to come visit us at Good Housekeeping. We have every product possibly imaginable to test and be tested.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to happen. I'll bring you some goodies with some dressing on the side.
Perfect.
So let's talk about your morning routine.
Okay.
Your day sounds quite flexible.
Oh, it's flexible and inflexible at the same time.
Okay, so you've got structure within dynamicness.
Within chronic dynamicness.
Yeah, cool. Love it. Talk to me. From what time do you get up?
So I get up. Oh, today I overslept my alarm and that was horrendous.
5:01. What time is it?
No, I do this terrible thing that people should never do, I guess, but I think everyone does it, which is hit the snooze.
Sure.
Right. Then it's over.
Game
you know
over.
What I mean? Like
Yeah,
if you snooze, you actually lose.
I love the rhyming nature.
It's some pros.
That's free
for us.
That's free for you guys. That's you can take that one. That's fine. I do actually feel that I swear the second alarm, the snooze alarm, is actually lighter. It's like
totally
cheap, right?
Totally.
It's like, I'm going to tease you.
I'm trying to figure out how to fix that on my phone, but I can't.
Don't make it the snooze alarm volume. Make it the actual volume, but louder.
Make it louder. Just say, "Wake up, you idiot, Jackie! You're so late."
How cool would that be if you could do that?
It would be amazing.
You know what? Actually,
you probably can.
You probably can.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope they come and teach us about it.
I'm just gonna create a voice. I'm just gonna be like, "Sup, legend? Time me out again, bro. You're gonna crush today. You are the
dude of all dudes.
Bro.
You are king of the universe.
You're gonna chest bump someone today like
so hard.
You're gonna win the gold medal in the 2020 Olympics. Sorry.
Chest bumping is the new Olympic sport, 2020.
Oh my god, how funny. Sorry. Okay,
so that was today. I mean, so it depends on the day, but usually my day starts at 6 or 7, depending. If I can get my tush out of bed at 6, I'm gonna go for a run. I've got 2 little nuggets, and by nuggets I mean dogs, and they're not both little. One is 8 pounds, and the other one's more like 55 pounds.
That's a big dog. What type of dog is that?
So a Wheaten Terrier. They're both extremely cute and so sweet, and they love to just lay around and be cute, but they also like food so much.
So it sounds like me when I was growing up and now.
Right. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Samesies. Samesies. Okay, and so then after you get out of bed, you go for your run.
So go for a run. I have not, this winter, this was a rough winter, I have to say. I was really more of a nighttime runner this winter.
Yep.
Go to the gym, listen to a book, and get on the treadmill. So that really changed it up. But now that it's light in the morning, I like to get up earlier when I can actually make it out of the bed.
Sure.
And not oversleep. And then it's just kind of mania for about an hour trying to get me out of the apartment after I come back from the run. So there's mania of dog feeding. There is mania of checking emails. I wish I could say that I have a morning routine that's more like Zen, but really it's just haphazard.
So like,
it's just real life.
Like, and what about food though?
Food, okay, so I actually wrote about this and then I started doing it because I realized that I wrote about it in this here book called Dressing on the Side, Another Diet Myths Debunked.
Do you want, actually,
I'll do a little reveal.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's called The Breakfast in 2 Parts, and I say like this is really real life imitating art here because I have now really, it's basically my daily morning routine includes breakfast in 2 parts. My whole idea was that it's really idealistic and wonderful to think that we could be like Ansel Keys and just have breakfast by the Mediterranean and live our best lives as we go and fish for lunch, but we don't really live in a bubble like that. I wish we did. But so a lot of the reason why I would hear people saying that they don't feel like they can eat breakfast is for a whole variety of reasons, but one of the biggest is I have no time. So for me, this looks like sometimes it takes many different forms, but if like this morning, I just got some amazing walnut butter. It's out of this world. It's walnut butter made, it's like got a bunch of different spices in it, and it tastes like an oatmeal cookie. So I had a bunch of spoonfuls of this as I literally am heating up a straight flat iron, to fix my hair and to get myself out the door, put my clothes on, right?
I hate when that happens.
Hate it when that happens.
My straightener just gets in the way.
When your straightener is trying to heat, it really wastes those seconds for you. I know you need them back.
It's funny. I actually now know what that is.
Right, I know. You're like, oh.
Like 2 months
now
ago,
you
my
can really
girlfriend moved in
relate.
with me, and I'm just like actually knowing what that's
Exactly,
like.
exactly. I know. No, my boyfriend he's out of the shower and he's on his way within the span of a full 5 minutes. And I'm like, I look at him and I'm like, to be you. What would I do with all that time?
I also love that we can change a t-shirt and it's a different
it's the
outfit.
best. It's amazing. I've never seen any. Sometimes he'll be wearing a blue shirt and he'll change into a different blue shirt and I'm like, that's a different outfit.
I know, and he looks good in both.
Right, and I'm like,
That's
but
not
now
fair.
it takes me 3 days to get through just my stupid closet.
I know, it's like $30 new t-shirt.
Right.
And then you guys spend like $500 to $600.
I know. It's
and
rough.
this is why guys should be appreciative of what girls do to make themselves look good.
You know, it's
I'm on that court.
also
I'm learning
fascinating, right?
That's a whole other topic of conversation.
Exactly. I mean, we could do a whole other episode on that, right?
So breakfast in 2 parts. You're having your walnut butter while straightening your hair.
Yes. So I had a bunch of spoonfuls of that. I'd say
nice.
solid got in there.
Like as
we're
it
talking
was
like
sitting left in the jar?
tablespoon. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about well, maybe tomorrow.
Fantastic
I'll have the
amigas.
Right. Yeah, it's delicious. And then I will sprint out the door and get my butt to the office. And then once I'm there, I will have the second half of breakfast. So sometimes, depending on how big the first part is, and I give like a bunch of ideas for this in Dressing on the Side, but in my current routine, it really has to do with actually, it's kind of a funny thing, but it really speaks to the whole theme of the book, which is that you really have to kind of stop trying to make your current thoughts about what you think you should be having work in the context of your everyday life. So what I do at Good Housekeeping requires me to be tasting and testing various food items, food products, packaged snacks all day long. So like there was a time when last summer, for example, I basically lived on ice cream. Like I was testing ice cream all day, every day. So like, there's always ways to kind of make it work, and how you make it work for you can really be unique, but there are a variety of different ways to help you do that. And I explain all of those in Dressing, but what it was today for me was, if it was walnut butter this morning, I wound up then having a big latte with some unsweetened soy milk just for tastiness, and I had an apple, and then I had a piece of Swiss cheese, and it was heavenly.
Wow.
So yeah, it was sort of a random assortment of breakfast.
Unregimented,
so there's
colourful range of breakfast.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like to just get produce involved at some point,
Yep.
get some good nuts, seeds. That's usually a part of every day, every
Yep.
morning.
Great.
Cheese and fruit is a combination that happens once, if not twice, a day for me.
Okay. We just love your
That's
cheese.
very important.
Love
But
that.
yeah, but I'm a big proponent of snacking and of not going too long without eating, because I think that sets a lot of people up for kind of overdoing it, and hydration being extremely important. I'm that person that has to have like 15 beverages out on my desk at one given moment in order to feel safe. In order to really feel secure.
There you go. So you can walk into your office and
Yeah.
you just see like 1,000 of these bottles up.
Yes.
So let's talk about a few other things quickly. Like I always talk about to control the controllable. It's a big philosophy of mine in talking to people. What you can do throughout your day, you can actually have an impact on.
Yes.
So what's something in your day that you demonstrate that you control the controllable?
Gosh, I love that so much. Control the control.
It's
That
amazing.
kind of makes me want to cry a little, but I won't. Okay. So what do I do? So it's such a good thing to think about, because I definitely need to do it more.
Sure. So like, for example.
But hydration is a perfect example of
Sure.
that. I am never without a beverage.
Nice.
You will not ever see me also without a snack.
Great.
I am at any given point in time carrying several snacks in my bag with me. I have been known to find cheese in various bags. I mean, it's packaged. It's not like just out and
But
gross.
you don't have it just unwrapped in plastic and just hanging out.
It's
creating
just
its own
not. I
microbiome.
just want to see what kind of animals I can
Yeah,
find in
nice.
Central Park.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
just here for the
You
animals.
want to get those squirrels out and hanging about, you know.
Exactly. Just want to see who I can attract.
That's
with
awesome.
cheese.
Having hydration around all the time,
Yes.
food stacks available.
Key.
It prevents you from always going, oh, I need to get that. Well, you already have, which is awesome.
Exactly. And it eliminates the kind of choice and the decision and overwhelm that comes with choice, because choice is so powerful and wonderful, but you just want to be feeling like you're in control of
That's
that
so
rather
true.
than it owning you.
That's so true. Well, on that note, I have my favourite question.
Okay.
Jaclyn, if you were a fruit, a food, a meal, what would you be and why?
Oh my God, this is such a good question.
Yeah, it's great. I had a really good one yesterday,
It's
actually. So
such
you
a
got
good
a very
A
high
fruit,
step
a food, or a meal.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would not be salad with dressing on the side.
Okay.
I'll tell you that much.
Wow, good little plug.
Sad desk salad is not, that's not in here. I would be I hate to say this, it's my first thought though, I have to go with my gut. I'd be a cauliflower. I love cauliflower, and I have loved cauliflower for many years now, and just because it's having a moment doesn't mean that it's a fleeting little fling for me. Cauliflower and I, we go way back. I love me some cauliflower.
Well, is there a reason why?
I love everything about it. First of all, I love that you can do so many things with it. Yeah. Let's start with the obvious, okay? I get it. The pizza, the crust, you can roast it, you can saute it, you can put it in an omelet, the gnocchi. Oh my God, it's overwhelming. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't love the answer because it's still cauliflower.
Cool.
And it's really,
You're just passionate about cauliflower.
It's becoming a little bit like the basic bitch of vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I used to say that kale, and I hate to say, well, I won't even say this, but kale is a little bit overexposed, kind of like reality stars we see frequently on TV. You know, like there's sort of like kale is there everywhere.
Well, we can't say too loud,
right?
Because my business partner upstairs is actually named Kale. Yeah, his mom, Debbie Evans, was well ahead of the game.
That's amazing.
No, he's 32.
That's amazing.
So he still looks like he's a young buck though. So he's like, look, she's 22. I'll tell him that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she was well ahead of the game in calling the.
That's way ahead of the game.
The original superfood. It's great, isn't it?
I'd maybe go with, like, if I had to choose a runner-up, I would go. I'd just go with pumpkin spice latte.
Lovely. There you go. Watch out, millennials. Well, Jaclyn, It's been an absolute pleasure to have you today. As stipulated by the book, I've left the lemon tahini dressing on the side. It's got a beautiful creaminess to it. It's vegan, it's dairy-free. It's a really good one that anyone can make at home just with a blender. If you want to see how to create it, make sure you hit up YouTube. If you want the method, the recipe, it's all in a link down below. Jackie, where can we find out more about you?
Okay, well I would definitely encourage anyone to make any change in their daily eating habits, in their health, in their current state of health or weight, to check out Dressing on the Side. You can check it out at dressingonthesidebook.com, which is really fabulous, I may say. dressingonthesidebook.com. And it's at all bookstores nationwide, but really just one click away on Amazon.
Nice.
You know? And you can follow me at Jaclyn London RD.
Fantastic. I mean, guys, I'm definitely going to be reading this as my next book, and purely because it's going to be turning my lights on without actually having the lights on. It's beautiful green neon, so I mean, I can't miss it. But in everything you said, I love the fact that as I turn the pages, I see super relatable and engaging ways to communicate a really nice raw message, which is something often overlooked, and I think in this day and age we need to talk about it from a much more conversational tone, and you definitely get that from me. So
it's just real talk.
With that note, Jackie, I would just love to say thank you again for giving up your time. I'm really excited for this book, and I would love to hear what you think of my lemon tahini
I'm so excited.
So I left it on the side, but you do whatever you need to get
Okay, so if I just drink from here, would
straight
that
up.
be
Just get the
that would
spoon.
just be okay. Right.